Uh, Welcome, everyone. My name is Leonie Wheeler, and I'm the Honorary CEO of the Australian Learning Communities Network. And I also run the PASCAL Connecting Urban and Rural Learning Initiatives, LCN. And tonight, before we begin, in Australia, it's usual practice to acknowledge the traditional owners on the land from which we all come today, and where learning takes place across Australia and globally. And I particularly acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people of the Kulin Nation, where the lands on which I come. And it gives me great pleasure tonight to welcome our guest keynote, our speaker. These are informal chats. So last time, Norm said he'd like to hear about what goes on in small towns, and how a larger town such as Tamworth might provide services to those small towns. So tonight we've got Kay Delahunt from Townsworth Regional Council, who manages the library services in Tamworth. So we'll just quickly get on to you, Kay, and you can start your presentation.
Right. Can you see the presentation at the moment, Leonie?
Yes, I can see it, and I've got the title. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm coming to you from Kamilaroi country in Tamworth, and the presentation's about small town libraries. And I've just selected 6 of our smaller libraries, and they're all multi-purpose facilities. So they host more than just a library in them, which seems to be a trend even for larger libraries at the moment. So just to show you where they are, I've marked them on the Google map. So the furthest one from Tamworth is 90 kilometres, but we do have branches. We have several branches that are 200 kilometres from Tamworth. So the ones that I've chosen are closer to Tamworth, and 4 of them are part of Tamworth Regional Council, and then I've chosen one from Uralla Shire and one from Liverpool Plains Shire.
Hey, on that map, where is Tamworth? Can you use the arrow?
Yes, it's where you can see where Katingal is, just below that, where they all meet, where those 3 roads meet. That's where Tamworth is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Tamworth has a population of how much? What's the population of Tamworth?
Tamworth's it's around 48,000, I think, in town, but it's 65 in the whole LGA. 65,000.
Thank you.
Yeah, so these villages all have different populations. Katingal's 2,313. It's only 13 kilometres from Tamworth. And it's not continuous development to Katingal. It is quite a separate place. I mean, eventually it probably will become a suburb, but at the moment, it's been there a long time. It's a very established place, but also growing. Nundle is 61 kilometres from Tamworth. It's in the mountains. It's got a completely different climate. It has a population of 486 people. Werris Creek is part of Liverpool Plains Shire. It's an old railway town. It has a population of 1,478, and it's 44 kilometres from Tamworth. Uralla is up near Armidale. It's 88 kilometres away, and it has a population of 5,971, and a slightly different population, a more educated population in Uralla, because proximity to Armidale and the university. It's I guess a different culture there. Manila, which is in Tamworth Regional Council, it has a population of 2,386, and it's 44.5 kilometres from Tamworth in a northwest direction. And further still northwest is Barraba, which is 90 kilometres away and has a population of 1,329. So what I'll do is I'll go through them in that order, and I'm probably starting with the most glamorous and and working through to the ones that perhaps haven't had as much attention recently. So Katingal has only been completed in November 2024. Before that, it was located in a small room in the front of the Memorial Hall. It was only 88 square metres. It was a very busy and bright little place, but it was also, there was no room for any kind of learning activities. People found it very hard to even go in there and use a computer. So in 2024, a new 295 square metre extension for a library and a meeting room was attached to the back of the hall into an L shape. And so that was the picture on the title page. That's that new library. In it, there is the library part of it. There's a library, there's a council customer services desk, there's a meeting room, and there's the community hall. So after the building was done, that room was demolished at the front of the hall, the internal part, and all of the hall was reinstated to original condition. It's been repainted, and it has a sprung dance floor, and it has new accessible toilets and change rooms. And it has 2 small service desks in the library and one, like little pods, not a counter. And one's for council customer service and one's for library assistants. And the library staff practice the roving reference model. So they move about the floor space, offering help to people rather than standing behind a desk. Katingal Library has been open for 17 hours a week for a very long time. Since we've opened the new library, we've extended the staffed hours as a trial for 30 hours per week. We also had a grant, and because this library is new, we've been able to set everything up so that it's easy to implement an after-hours access by swipe, similar to 24/7 gym. That's actually happening at the moment. We expect it's a matter of weeks before that will be activated. You can see here the program when we first opened this library. So there are quite a lot of activities happening, and I'll point out to you to look in that right-hand corner there at that bike. It's a bike station. Just I'll talk about that on the next slide. So these were the programs that we offered in the first opening month, or might have been the second opening month. So there was macroscope and 3D printing and Rubik's Cube solver, Sphero obstacle course. So Sphero is a small robot, and Vex robots, and also the bike repair station. We had a craft group open day, and we screened a movie, and we had a guest story time. And I shall just move on to the next slide. So there we've got a picture inside that interior, and that's Elise Simmons doing a music celebrity story time. So she's a country music singer. And you will see that big turtle on the wall that's been woven by local Aboriginal ladies, and we have leased it for 3 years. So it's there for 3 years. And this is the meeting room in that library. So that's the craft group, CWA craft group having a session. And you'll see the picture that's behind them on the green wall is actually an acknowledgement of country. It's a beautiful acknowledgement of country, and we have done that in all of our Tamworth branches. And there's an 85-inch screen there for Zoom and movies and streaming. So the learning activities happening at Katingal, Tech Savvy Seniors, 10-week course once a year, preschool story time weekly, the Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, school holiday STEM activities. So they come from Tamworth. Tamworth staff go out. We take equipment, so robots, macroscope, wind tunnel, do coding, that sort of thing. And then there's the bike repair workshop. So you saw that picture. That's a piece of equipment out the front. I don't know if you've seen them. You can place the bike. It looks like an old telecom pole, that they used to open up and take and pull the wires out. And basically, it's quite similar. You pull out all the tools. They're on very tough metal sort of chains, and you can you put your bike on top of it. There's a place to sort of hoist your bike on, and then there's a pump, and there's all the different tools inside it. It's also got a QR code on it, so you can sort of teach yourself how to use it. But we have also had the sustainability team coming out, and they put a marquee up around it because it's very hot in the middle of the day, and run workshops on how to repair your bike. So that seems to have been very popular so far. This branch has a junior book club, an adults book group. We've done sauerkraut and kombucha demonstrations there. So we do, if there's a kitchen in the facility, we can do workshops. If there isn't, it's a demonstration. There's been movie screenings, and there's been end-of-life care planning information sessions. The things that I've put in orange are sort of unique to this branch in our system, in our library system. The other things that they've hosted that are learning activities are Scams Awareness, which is presented by NBN Co. The CWA present the craft. We've got a one-off ballet workshop for seniors with the Australian Ballet. They're coming to perform in Tamworth, and as part of that, they do some free workshops, some for children and some for seniors, and the seniors one is happening at Katingal. We've got celebrity story times and also the live stream of the Sydney Writers' Festival. So that's Katingal. The second place we're going to is Nundle, also part of Tamworth Regional Council. It's got a population of 486 people. And I think a town that size isn't likely to, like there are other towns that size in our region that don't have libraries. But historically, Nundle was actually a council on its own. It was amalgamated in 2004 into the Tamworth Regional Council. And so it already had a library. So, it was already there, but it's been dramatically improved. Nundle's 61 kilometres from Tamworth. In that centre, it was originally a council office for Nundle Council. And the library was, with a grant, the library was moved into there, and it's been a library and a council customer service centre for quite some time now. But just recently, and I mean within weeks, we have added a visitor. We've moved the visitor information outlet into there because during COVID, the volunteers fell off from staffing the visitor information outlet that was located near the caravan park. But the really exciting thing is we've put in this in an exhibition space, which you can see in this photo. And it's a rocks, gems and minerals collection that was donated to council. It was in the visitor information outlet, but it has been displayed much more effectively in this space. And this library, this facility also has a community garden. It's open 20 hours a week, and it's one staff member. But when I say one, there's two people, but they work 10 hours each, which works well in remote communities because they can relieve each other. The position description has just been changed to include those new things, and it's also including cultural development at a local level. So the learning activities, and the picture you've got there is the Sydney Writers' Festival being live streamed. There's a book group that meets monthly. The Sydney Writers' Festival streamed. The Sydney Bad Crime Writers' Festival streamed annually. Movie nights, story times. Now, story time isn't regular at Nundle, and not a huge number of children in the town. So, and a lot of them are on property, so it's a bit tricky. The Dolly Parton's Imagination Library School holiday activities. There is a little school in Nundle, so the school holiday activities are well attended. Again, the STEM activities are brought out from Tamworth. One of the staff at Nundle is very keen on family history and local history, and she runs family history workshops. Nundle was the first library in Australia to offer a seed library, so that was in 2013. So these things are all sort of playing to the community, I suppose. So there's the community garden, there's a seed library, they have gardening talks, land care speakers, and they share excess produce at the library. So that's a picture of the book group. So for a tiny town, it's sort of, there's a bit going on. Pardon me. So what's planned for Nundle? So this picture is the community garden, and there's a mural. That's the mural that went up last year, done by a local artist. So what we're planning with Nundle is to have the support the rocks, gems and minerals collection with the geology and gemology book collection, to have visiting speakers and the macroscope availability and live stream events that all tie in with that rocks and gems and minerals interest. Nundle has a strong fossicking community, and it attracts visitors interested in fossicking as well. So we're currently investigating the idea of loaning fossicking equipment from the library. It is a gold mining area, and it's got a great local studies collection. Now we're moving on to Werris Creek, which is part of Liverpool Plains Shire Council. It has a population of 1,478 and it's 44 kilometres away. It has a library and it has a Services Australia agency in it, which is Centrelink and Medicare. And it also has a community garden. It's open 24 hours a week and has one staff member there at a time. So it's a single person library. And that's the interior of the library. It's learning activities. They had a homegrown program from Liverpool Plains that they call Learn from a Local program, and they invite local people with specific skills to come in and give talks or demonstrations or workshops. And they've had some fairly unusual and interesting topics. They do preschool story times regularly, school holiday activities from regional and local staff, both, STEM workshops, adults book group, tech savvy seniors, Sydney Writers Festival, the Bad Crime Writers Festival, and 1,000 books before school. So they don't have Dolly Parton Imagination Library in Liverpool Plains, but they're doing the 1,000 books before school program. And they also have the North and Northwest Legal Service make appointments. You can make appointments with them once a month and it's free. Moving on to Uralla, which is Uralla Shire Council. So that's located up near Armdale. Population 5,971. It's 88 kilometres from Tamworth, and it's quite a big area as well. They have some outlying communities that present challenges for them to service. It's open 27 hours a week and it has 2 staff. And it is a combined library, history hub and exhibition space, or sort of like a small gallery. Their foyer is like a gallery. It's quite a pleasant space. So that's the History Hub in Uralla Library. So the learning activities there are preschool story times, author talks, adult book groups. There's 2 of them there. Craft workshops, so they do things like slow stitching, quilling, Japanese rice bags. They do STEM workshops, again, delivered by the regional staff. Lace making is very big. There's a lace making a sort of group in Uralla. They did a seniors expo there with lots of information for seniors, and they've got an art journaling group. So moving on to Barraba, which is northwest of Tamworth, but part of Tamworth Regional Council. It was amalgamated into Tamworth in 2004. And it's a council office and a Service New South Wales agency. So it's driver tests and licence renewals. And it's a library. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit different from the other libraries because it's actually run by council customer service staff rather than by library staff. There's tech savvy seniors programs again, after school activities, story times, adult book group, Dolly Parton, STEM activities, regional initiatives such as the One Book One Region, regional library delivers adult learners week programs such as sauerkraut and kombucha making. Learning to knit sessions are coming up in a week or two, and the NBN Co scams training. And you can see there's a very old building, and it's a bit sad really. It's nice and bright and white inside, but very cramped, not adequate space. But there's this beautiful mural on the outside of the building, which you can see in the photo. And the other one is Manila. Again, the same thing. It's to the northwest of Tamworth, a bit closer in. It's you could travel through Manila to get to Barraba. And it has a population of 2,386. It's a council office and it's a Services Australia agency. So it's Centrelink and Medicare, and also a library. So again, tech savvy seniors, after school activities, preschool story times, Dolly Parton, knitting group, adults book group, STEM, and One Book One Region, and Adult Learners Week. So that pretty much sums up the things that have been happening in those particular libraries. In summary, what I would say is that not one size fits all. So a lot of those things are tailored to their community, their own communities. So, you know, all the foster king and gems in Nundle and the lace making in Uralla. The learning programs are a joint responsibility of the branches and the regional library service. So the success, for them to be a great success, both parts have to be working well. Programs from the regional library are consistent across the region. So those story time STEM programs, the book group kits, the holiday programs, and the tech savvy seniors are very consistent programs. Some of the small libraries have really energetic staff that go absolutely above and beyond. But that does also mean that there's some kind that, you know, it's not equal. Some places the learning is there's a lot more energy. So, you know, the learning aspirations also of the communities differ across the region. So the literacy and education levels are an issue in 5 of those 6 small towns. And there's a strong interest in those small communities to learn arts and crafts and practical skills. Sometimes it's a bit harder to get people in to do things that are perhaps a little bit drier topics. The book groups are strong in every single community in the region. They're extremely popular. And I think that's also because of the social aspect as well as the stimulation. So not all the learning that happens in the libraries is happening through programs. Some of it is self-directed learning, and that's, I think, very much where libraries come in because they can support that self-directed learning with resources. And the other thing is that people are given assistance to use technology, not just at tech-savvy senior sessions, but also through incidental learning. So, you know, people ask questions all the time because they'll be in the library, they'll bring their device in, or they'll be using a library computer and they'll get stuck. So basically, I think, you know, there's a few issues here because there are issues with literacy. I think they are more obvious than they were 10 and 20 years ago. And I think in terms of what the type of things that the gaps that libraries will need to fill. And we're often the safety net for the people that have fallen, that have fallen through the net from other services that haven't sort of satisfied the criteria or haven't been able to adapt. So I think, this learning journey, it's quite like, 20 years ago, libraries weren't doing learning programs other than story times. It wasn't, author talks probably started about 15 years ago, those trends. And now there's a strong move towards learning programs. And I think that, we're only at the tip of the iceberg, because there is certainly in remote communities, there is a need for people to have opportunities to learn. So that's the end of the presentation, really. I'm happy to take any questions.
I guess I'm kind of interested, what sort of drives this in terms of how does it get started? You have presumably a library that's 15 years ago primarily handling books, these kinds of things, and then it's now transformed into this new broad-based approach, which I really think is great. And I do not see this in the United States, or at least in my area in Illinois. It may be happening in some of the larger libraries, but I'm not really seeing it happening at in the really small towns. And that was part of what my interest was. What really drives it? Is it the council that basically takes the lead? Is it a group of community residents, or who is it? Who's the spark plug in these situations?
Look, I think there's a whole range of drivers. Because we're a regional library of six councils, there's a real responsibility to look after everybody that's contributing financially to that. Some of the impetus is coming from the State Library of New South Wales, who's identifying trends, and so the Tech Savvy Seniors program has been developed by Telstra, and the grants to run that program are administered by the State Library. So those sort of things are actually are available statewide. Not everybody takes them up, and they are a little bit competitive. You do have to compete for those grants. So also from surveying the community, and the sort of have your say page on the council's website, asking what sort of programs people would like. A lot of it is just testing and seeing what happens. And government policy, like there was a move towards STEM education, so libraries realised that was something that people in the bush were going to be left behind if they didn't have opportunities. So that's why we developed STEM kits and STEM programs in libraries. So I think it's, and there's probably other reasons as well that I haven't thought of right at the moment.
But these are primarily financed by the local community, or by the local city or village or whatever?
Yes, the state has some contribution towards libraries, but it's quite small. It's probably, I can't tell you exactly, but it's probably between 10 and 20% of the funding. Yeah.
Best I know about, and it's been quite a few years since I did any work with libraries, about maybe 20 years ago, I did a fair amount of writing on how the libraries could be training community development within the community. And we did some seminars and training programs, actually trained the librarians on economic development and community development practices and various things. But I've not really followed up on that. But again, as I'm traveling around, at least within our region, and I'm about an hour west of Chicago. So in that rural region, I'm not really seeing much as I'm going into the communities, other than maybe sort of a museum or history of the community or something like that, plus the traditional books and these kinds of things. But I've not seen the kind of activities you're talking about.
I think the partnerships too that sort of drive to increase partnerships. So, partnering with Landcare has made it possible to have all those gardening activities. And also there is some community development that happens there, because then Landcare wants to raise money for their community garden. So they help to sponsor visiting artists who are coming, music artists who do a concert. So they do all the ticket sales and the catering, and then they get a certain amount of the funds raised, but by doing that at a local level, they know everybody, so everybody goes to the concert. So all these things sort of feed off each other. It's like I suppose it's an ecosystem sort of approach.
I think what the ones that I've seen that have been pretty active, the smaller communities, and we have a set of grants through private or nonprofits, these kinds of groups as well. So I don't think it's really coordinated, perhaps as much as what you've got. So what you may have in a small community is some community group that gets a grant to bring in some artists or traveling artists or something like that, but it's not necessarily related to the library at all. So it seems like kind of a various groups that, if they were coordinating better, probably could do a better job. But it's I'm not sure exactly. I'd have to study this in more detail to figure out how to approach it.
I think there's enormous potential to do so much more. I feel frustrated that we've only sort of at that tip of the iceberg.
Thank you, Kay. That was an amazing presentation and an amazing lot of activities. And I do agree with Norm, and that it is the coordination that is going on in the various communities. I just had a question around, is there a steering committee in each city, in each village, that determines what they might like, because you have local programs as well? Or is it the staff in these centres? I mean, you've got staff that in some centres cover government services, council services and library staff, or is it just the salaried staff?
I think it's mostly the salaried staff, yes.
Yeah, but it's fantastic. I see that Joe and Tracy, have you got any questions you want to ask of Kay?
Kay, that was a great presentation. I think you've got a real advantage in Tamworth in that you've got regional staff that can go into these tiny little communities to run programs. I'm assuming that's how you're doing a lot of it. I think there's some small communities outside of the city of Ballarat that would love to be able to do the range of programs that you're offering in these tiny communities, that wouldn't have the staffing capacity to do that. They might only have one or two library staff and no sort of larger regional library system to draw on. Am I reading that situation right? Is that how you're running some of those programs?
Well, it is a joint responsibility between the branches and the regional library. So I guess what the regional library, with the STEM programs, I think that they require equipment, etc. So the regional library does those, but we try to build capacity in the region. So we'll do training days and actually train people and give them the kits and the programs, and then they present them and they gain confidence doing that as well. So the tech savvy seniors, most of the branches have been able to present that themselves after being trained. So
I will stop the recording at this stage and we can have more of a general discussion.